Friday, we had that ruling come down from the Effingham County judge, and we'll take a look at that here with Springfield's Morning News. You can always call in 217-629-7970. You can email bishoponair@gmail.com. But let's get to it because there's tons to get to on this. An 11-page ruling issued on the state-level court case that Attorney Thomas DeVore filed in Effingham County. Now, this is one of 3 cases that have been filed thus far, and I expect more cases to be filed today, not just in this Effingham County situation that Attorney Thomas DeVore is promoting and getting out there, but also in federal court, expecting another lawsuit to be filed today. So even more action is going to be happening in the days and weeks ahead. But let's get to this with the Effingham Circuit Court in the state of Illinois issuing this temporary restraining order against the state from enforcing the gun ban on 866 different clients that Attorney DeVore has. So I want to go through some of the issues here on this temporary restraining order that was filed. And, right away it talks about the standard for temporary restraining order and how it's an emergency remedy intended to maintain the status quo, which is the last actual peaceable, uncontested status that preceded the pending controversy. So before the law passed, that's where a temporary restraining order would take it back for those plaintiffs who sued. Again, 866 plaintiffs. I believe 6 of them were gun stores, and those plaintiffs and gun stores can do business with each other now with this temporary restraining order in place, according to Attorney Thomas DeVore. So continuing on here with this story about the lawsuit that was filed and ultimately the emergency hearing on Wednesday of last week. We were told to expect a ruling on a temporary restraining order on Friday. We got that at about 4:30 is when it actually posted, but the judge goes on to say that plaintiffs possess a clear right in need of protection. And further, it says the court finds that plaintiffs, in fact, have a constitutional fundamental right that is subject to strict scrutiny and is protected by the Constitution of Illinois and the Constitution of the United States. So that's, again, the ongoing question here about whether or not the state can ban certain types of weapons. Goes on that plaintiffs will suffer irreparable injury, and that's, again, another aspect that the judge highlighted, saying that plaintiffs are immediately and irreparably harmed each day in which their fundamental right to bear arms is being denied, and that this harm is continuing in nature. Judge goes on. You've got the count 3 here. Plaintiffs have no adequate remedy of law, and they also are likely to succeed on the merits of their claims. But then you go further on, and it talks about some of the issues, and there were 4 major components, from my understanding, that Attorney DeVore argued on in circuit court in Effingham County. One of them was a procedural issue. We've heard this before when it comes to the Safety Act, and we've actually seen this for years and years and years at the state of Illinois, people questioning the use of or abuse of the single subject rule in the Illinois Constitution, that legislation has to deal with one subject. In the Safety Act, people argued that it was all-encompassing. It was a large document. It spanned from how jails should operate to how criminal justice and police should be regulated. So there were all kinds of different issues in there. But another argument is what we see a lot of the time, and this happened with this gun ban bill, what started as a bill concerning amusement park rides turned into a gun ban bill. They scrapped that, and then they grabbed something that dealt with like public insurance. And then they gutted that bill and put the gun ban bill in there. So you can see how some of the procedural questions here can frustrate the controversy even more. But the judge in this case, looking at that, does indeed talk about how the court finds the defendants unequivocally and egregiously violated the 3 readings rule of the Illinois Constitution, another provision that requires legislation to have 3 public hearings of sorts before they actually approve that. We'll see just exactly how far that argument goes. But the case goes on from there. And it also talks about how the training aspect of law enforcement, the defendants, the state was arguing that gives the carve out for law enforcement some actual teeth. But the judge saying that didn't necessarily sell the argument when it comes to strict scrutiny for an individual's constitutional rights, a civil right, the Second Amendment, right to keep and bear arms, having that type of carve out doesn't stand up to strict scrutiny. So I talked with attorney Thomas DeVore late Friday evening. Wasn't super late. It was right after the ruling came out. But we kind of get a little bit of an overview immediately afterwards of DeVore celebrating the key victory he got for his clients in this case.
Correct. Yes. I just read it. I had a quick opportunity to read it, and the judge found likelihood of success on the merits on all issues, including the 3 readings rule. It seems the judge is quite adamant that given their blatant disregard that he's going to find, he says there's a likelihood, right? He said, what do you say? The time is now for that issue to be addressed. So, he found likelihood on all 4 issues. So we will see if the state wants to appeal. If not, we'll work on getting this pursued to a final ruling so we can get to the merits of these issues sooner rather than later.
And the state has said that they plan on appealing. Governor J.B. Pritzker putting out a statement, House Speaker Chris Emanuel Welch putting out a statement. Also, you've got a statement released by Senate President Don Harmon talking about how they're pushing back against gun violence. They think that this is we've heard it before from the governor, grandstanding, and even some other words of choice from the proponents of the bill. But you've got the measure being heard again here soon. So the next actual date on this is going to be in February 1st at 9:30. So just in a handful of days here, we're going to have another turn in this case. But it doesn't just stop there. You've also got Attorney DeVore getting more clients for a second round, because again, this only impacts the plaintiffs and the gun stores that are part of DeVore's first lawsuits. Well, more people apparently signing up over the weekend, so we'll hear a little bit more about that. But Attorney DeVore also delving into some of the other aspects of the arguments that he had with the defendants in the case. One of those, again, being the issue of equal protection. And we touched on this just briefly earlier about the training that the state says gives police the right to be carved out of this. But the judge not necessarily seeing it like that. Again, here's Attorney Thomas DeVore.
I mean, the judge addressed that the way that I expected that he would, is that, given their lack of procedural compliance, I'm reading here, the judge says the court is left with nothing to conclude what their compelling public purpose is of this legislation. So he goes on and talks about how training, if categorizing all of those exempt persons based on their training, that he was not satisfied that was a legitimate reason to do that, what purpose does that further just by saying if you have more training, you can have these weapons, without even considering, training of people that aren't within those categories of employment.
So again, that's Attorney Thomas DeVore, and we'll actually hear a little bit more because he posted 2 different videos yesterday, live videos of him talking about the case, how it only impacts his clients and gun stores, and they can do business together. You've got other gun stores that are asking the question of, I don't know if I'm going to sell to somebody who's a plaintiff in this because, well, that could put some attention on that gun store. But regardless, the plaintiffs and the gun stores in DeVore's case can do business together. Well, DeVore moving forward with a second filing that he's going to do with even more clients tacked on. How many more? I don't know if DeVore is willing to show that card yet, but he is expected to file something again today in furtherance of a similar case, just with different plaintiffs. So still much more to get to with all of this here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY Springfield. Back with Springfield's Morning News, talking about the lawsuits that a judge in Effingham County issued a temporary restraining order against the state from enforcing the gun ban on 866 plaintiffs, including several gun stores. And these are all cases that are brought by Attorney Thomas DeVore, and it's expected he's going to be filing even more cases with more plaintiffs here possibly as early as today. So DeVore, over the weekend, he held several different kind of live streams where he was taking questions and talking about the case. He talked about how he is compiling even more plaintiffs, and people were registering while he was live on a variety of platforms. But here he is from yesterday talking about how he's lining up all these new plaintiffs to go on to a second case that essentially reflects what he got a temporary restraining order on in the Effingham County case.
How many plaintiffs so far in the second case? Ron says, I'm going to give that away, Ron. I'm going to let the governor hang in suspense, and he'll find out tomorrow when we file this thing. But I'm really pleased with the support because, again, we're going to take and we're going to go off into the federal court, and we're going to get the governor's attention in a bigger way than we've already got it. So
again, hearing from Attorney Thomas DeVore saying that's going to be heard in even a bigger way. Now, this is just state courts, all right? And then we've got the federal courts where the Illinois State Rifle Association's filed their lawsuit. Have yet to see if there's a hearing date on that. We'll update you on that tomorrow morning. But another federal case very likely could be filed today in federal court, and this one could be from a group that has collected together called Illinois Gun Rights Alliance. And that includes the Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois, Guns Save Life, and even more groups. So we'll see what happens with that case. But Attorney Thomas DeVore, he ultimately said, listen, there's can be coordination among all these cases. They're all separate, though. Ultimately, the goal is to block it before it actually becomes implemented, especially the gun registry aspect, which comes January 1st. If you don't register your gun, you could face a Class 4 felony or a Class 2 felony. I'm going to have to go back and revisit that in the law. But again, this is a gun and magazine ban in the state of Illinois, and a court challenge getting a temporary restraining order Friday. Another challenge likely to come from Attorney Thomas DeVore with more clients on board. But you also have other cases, including in federal court, where people are going out to have to pay these attorneys to have their rights defended. And that's something else that DeVore talked about in the state of Illinois, what we're facing here when it comes to individuals concerned about their Second Amendment rights and other rights.
Really what you guys are doing right now is hiring a lawyer to defend your rights that the Attorney General of the state of Illinois should be defending for you. I mean, that's really his job, is to defend you. He's not defending you. He's defending the governor. And again, he has to answer to you on why he's doing that. I can't answer it for him.
So, continued criticism from DeVore against Raul, the incumbent Democratic Attorney General who won re-election in November against DeVore, who was the Republican challenger. So we'll see where all these cases come, but and where they go, because you've got the Effingham County case. February 1st is when that's going to have a preliminary injunction hearing, and that could be the steps towards making that temporary restraining order statewide. But you do have an appeal that is expected. You've got Governor J.B. Pritzker signaling that by taking to Twitter and ultimately saying that he remains confident that courts will uphold the constitutionality of Illinois' law that aligns with other states. This is only step one in defending the Protect Illinois Communities Act, he said. I look forward to the next steps in this case and receiving the decision this case merits. So, again, you've got others, Senate President Don Harmon, House Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch, gun control advocates pushing for an appeal. So we'll see where the appeal ultimately gets. But you've got other cases. It's not just the DeVore case in state court. You've got a Crawford County state court that has a case on a state level. And then you've got the State Rifle Association already filed federal court case. And then you've got another court case that could be filed today in federal court. So a lot of moving pieces on this. We'll definitely keep on top of it here. And you can follow along Bishop on Air on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just search Bishop on Air across all platforms and you'll be able to find us. I want to get your phone calls next, though, at 217-629-7970. What do you think of the trajectory of all of this? Do you think there needs to be more of a coordinated approach? So we'll rehash the court case, the ruling that came out Tuesday, but also get your phone calls again at 217-629-7970. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop.
We will see if the state wants to appeal. If not, we'll work on getting this pursued to a final ruling so we can get to the merits of these issues sooner rather than later. Well, it would be expanded across the entire state once we get to the finality of it. Once there's a final ruling issued, that the judge actually declares that there's unconstitutionality here.
So that was, again, Thomas DeVore after securing the temporary restraining order against the state from enforcing the gun ban on 866 of his clients, including some gun stores. And he says that those two can start voluntarily doing business together again. So we'll see what happens with more lawsuits. The attorney is expected to file even more. He was collecting new plaintiffs yesterday live on the internet. He was talking about, hey, $200 is the fee. You register and we'll get you signed up. And he mentioned that he was planning on filing a second round today. But also I'm getting an indication that we could see a second federal case filed as well in that ongoing dispute over the state of Illinois' gun and magazine ban that Governor J.B. Pritzker enacted earlier in the month. I want to hear from you, though, at 217-629-7970, your thoughts on this, and in particular, the idea that we've got now, possibly 4 lawsuits that are going to be filed, if not even more. I have indication that, that we could see more types of action. So what are your thoughts? Should there be more of a coordinated approach here, or is this the best way to do it is to come at it from all angles, because you've got hundreds of plaintiffs on DeVore's case that have secured a temporary restraining order. You've got another case out of Crawford County with a handful of people. They're looking to suspend the law. You've got the federal case in federal court that really focuses on the Second Amendment issues. All right, so all these cases deal with different aspects of the law. DeVore's case deals with the procedural issues, the 3 readings, whether or not it has sufficient scrutiny to deal with the equal protections under the law. So that's DeVore's case that's advancing, and you've got another hearing, a preliminary injunction hearing, February 1st. But in the Crawford County case, you've got several issues being raised there, not just the Second Amendment, but also the Fifth Amendment, and that's your right to remain silent. The attorney there telling me last week, and I'll have to get an update on where that case is ultimately with a possible hearing date set. But the attorney saying that, with the gun registry that's anticipated to begin January 1st, that is going to require people to tell state police that they're in possession of weapons that the state legislature has deemed banned. So that is you incriminating yourself. So that's another aspect of the Crawford County case, which is in court. You've got the first federal case filed by the State Rifle Association that deals with a whole host of things from the Second Amendment to the 14th Amendment, equal protections. You've also got a 4th case that could be filed in federal court, the second in federal court today that I'm getting indication on. But let's get to your phone calls at 217-629-7970. Good morning. Thanks for your patience. What's up?
Good morning, Greg.
Hey.
Yeah, I just want to say I believe it's a little hypocritical on J.B. Pritzker's part to say that the sheriffs would need to enforce the law because that's the oath that they took, when on a federal level, marijuana is still illegal, and yet J.B. Pritzker's selling it.
Well, and listen, I mean, you've raised as well the issue of him violating federal law when it comes to cannabis and the immigration issue. And yeah, I mean, I can't answer that question. I'm not J.B. Pritzker, but I will try to get that question in the next time I am able to get that question in. Good morning. You're on WMAY. What's up?
Hey, good morning, Greg.
Hey.
So a couple of things. The first day that this bill passed, I was watching Channel 20 News. And I saw this upstanding gentleman from Christian County, I believe it was, raided for meth. And they showed a picture of his charges and everything he was caught with. And there had to be 2 or 3 assault rifles, a couple handguns, and a bunch of drugs. Now, I'm sure by January 1st, that fine upstanding gentleman would have registered all his firearms.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, as of right now, criminals get their hands on guns. Even that horrible shooting incident over in California, which was apparently a domestic dispute gone wrong with an elderly Asian man, from the reports I've seen, shooting up other people from Asian descent. Horrible. But even he had, apparently, according to ABC News reporting this morning, a gun that was prohibited in that state. So, yeah, criminals.
You are correct.
Criminals are going to get their hands on these guns, regardless of them being banned. I appreciate the call. Got to take another one. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Hey, Greg. Hey, the thing about it is it would be great if everybody could get together just because of the money aspect. You know how much money it's going to cost to fight this. But here's the thing. I mean, the money that the governor's using, that's my money too.
It's your tax dollars,
money, right? I mean, I'm having to fight this with. So he's got a pocket that he don't care that he empties. So you know what I'm saying?
And that's one critique that a lot of people have against just the onslaught here is that the state actors using the power of the state are going to continue to go after gun owners, and gun owners are going to have to deplete their resources to defend their rights unless there's some kind of political sea change. But that's, obviously during election season when we have elections every 2 years. Appreciate the call. Got plenty more coming in. 217-629-7970. Good morning.
Yes, I had read over the weekend that the Pritzkers and the Pritzker family is building a 20,000 square foot shooting range in Wisconsin.
I have yet to confirm that. I've seen that as well, floated around, and trust me, I get a lot of people sending me stuff. I've not seen that confirmed, but I will do what I can to try to track that down. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Morning.
Hey,
I know what people are going to think about these comments, conspiracy theory, whatever. They're trying to divide us as a country, and they always have. I mean, recently. But you know what's going to be the culminating factor here and why they might want to be taking our guns? Has anybody thought what's going to happen when they finally release the JFK files and how that could unite this country to say, hey, the government is out of control?
Yeah, I mean, listen, even President Biden and other politicians in the past have said that, if you believe that the Second Amendment's there to protect you from tyrannical government, we have tanks, we have drones. Even Al Sharpton saying stuff like that. So I think that really shows kind of the sentiments they have, those who have been elected to power. But listen, again, political sea changes happen, and every 2 years you have the ability to do something about that.
Yes.
Appreciate the call. 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. Appreciate everybody chiming in on this. And there's a lot more to come. There's a lot more to come on the debate over the Second Amendment. And especially now you've got that just horrible case out of California, another instance of a mass shooting. But a criminal was still able to get a weapon that apparently was banned. Then that suspect killing themselves when being approached by police after killing 10 and injuring others. So just a horrible situation out of there, and a lot of indication that people are jumping to conclusions early on in that story about what happened. It's always important to let things settle, let law enforcement get in there and do what they need to do before you start going out there and making wild assertions as to who was responsible for that. So the story's not going away, all right? So you'll hear a lot more about mass shootings and concerns there. You'll hear the gun control advocates say we have these mass shooting problems, we need more gun control, and you'll hear more about the lawsuits that are being filed to secure the Second Amendment rights, a civil right for individuals in this state and other states. So there's going to be a lot of moving pieces, and we'll cover it all with your phone calls as well. It's what we do here live and local on Talk Radio. It is Springfield's Morning News. 92.7 WMAY.